We out here.
For my bridal, what is this
Bridal
called?
shower.
That
Bridal shower.
plan. Maisie and Kate. Shout out to Kate. Where's Kate?
She's just handling the money.
She's
the big time organizer. We love it.
So why don't you start by just telling us who you are and how you came to be involved with Mercy Ships?
I'm Åsa and I come from Sweden. And you know, way back in 1978, I heard about this ship going from Europe, taking young people to Argentina to do evangelism. And it sounded so exciting. And I had also finished my training as a nurse. And I ended up coming down to Venice. And we couldn't actually go on board the ship. We had to stay in a campground, and there were other young people coming from other countries like Switzerland and UK and Germany and Holland. So we're like 400 young people meeting right there.
And this was, for viewers who don't know, this was the Anastasis.
This was the Anastasis, and it wasn't even Anastasis back then, it was the MS Victoria. It was this beautiful ship. And then I had met Marie, also from Sweden. We came together and we actually went back to Sweden, took her car. She sold her apartment, took her car, filled it up with all our belongings and drove down back to it.
And Marie was
Italy.
Captain Taylor's
Yes,
wife.
and Marie later became the wife of Captain Taylor.
He was our current captain on board.
Yes, Marie and I did some baking because we were Swedish. People thought you could bake.
My story is that I am actually born in Sweden, but I grew up in Switzerland. My mother was from Sweden, my father was from Switzerland. When I was about 24 or 5 years old, I moved to Germany, where I joined a convent, you could say. So I was actually considering to stay single for the Lord. And but then a couple of years later, we met some friends from YWAM who told us about the ship Anastasis, that it was supposed to go to Southeast Asia, perhaps. And that sounded like maybe I can contribute somehow with something.
The ship was the first year then in Italy, and then it was taken by towboats down to Greece. And in Greece also there were more people coming. Then we got doctors, we got captains and engineers, and then in 1980.
In 1918 January I came to the ship. I mean, I didn't know what to do when I came to the ship. I had no idea what I was, in what position, or I was more thinking of working with people, I thought, in Southeast Asia. But I was assigned to the electrical department in the engineering department. So what I did was replacing wires, miles and miles of wires which were crumbling between your fingers because they had been exposed to sun and salt water and and time, of course. So that's, I guess in a way it was a boring job, but I knew it had to be done.
The ship was so poor at the time. They would go up to the local petrol station and get diesel and bring back and fill up.
In a barrel.
So it was years of struggle. Our dinner would be rice and beans, the next day
beans and rice.
So there was the variety.
Beans too.
And one interesting thing too with not having electricity was that you could not flush your toilet. So we had a bucket by the railing, so you went out there and threw the bucket over and pulled up the water from the sea. Yes, so those were the days. You know, you can think of why in the world did I stay in that kind of environment. There were many times where we would be so discouraged. I thought, will this ship ever sail? And it could be discontentment between people, and there were so many times we were challenged to get our relationships right and to pursue God in prayer and also to have our attitudes right. In this time we became friends and we became a community.
And I remember one night I had a hard time sleeping. I went out to the kitchen and I saw a girl there with her toothbrush in her mouth. And I don't know, we just passed each other and I went up again and went to sleep again.
Oh,
That was my first memory from Åsa.
oh.
Which I remember.
So brushing your teeth.
My first memory with you was that, I would like to practice my Swedish.
Yeah,
And I said, you can practice with Marie. But anyway, we became friends and all of a sudden there was more than friendship and God really brought us together.
Yeah.
So in many ways, I mean, we were part of building this ship's ministry by being there those early years. But God was also building so much into our lives and giving us so much. I even remember sometimes I would get letters from my friends back home and I would feel so, I miss them. A bit of homesickness, you know. And I give up all my friends. But to think back, I have gained so many friends, and I gained a husband and all the 4 children we have, the grandchildren, and,
Wow.
and I have friends all over the world. Wow. That's just, so God gave me so much more.
I think God showed me and us that we could solve most of the problems with His help.
Wow.
So that was great.
The unseen heroes that allowed, us to be here now doing what we're doing, and yet maybe had to be okay with planting seeds that you didn't get to see the fruit of at first, which is really why it's so special that you've both come back all these years later working on the global mercy on the other side of what you did. And I'm curious what it's been like to be here.
I never really could see myself. I'm old and all that. To come back and then I'm actually here again and I'm able to work as a nurse.
Wow.
And it's really touched my heart to see the work that's been done. Meeting these people, to look into their eyes and see the pain and the suffering and offering some kind of hope. And then I've worked a bit with these little children that get their legs cut to be straight. And that's a big work. It's not just from one day to the next. So they have to really put their energy into training and practicing and then seeing the physiotherapists work with them. And wow, it's been amazing.
It's interesting because that almost sounds similar to the work you were doing on the Anastasis, all of this hard labor, all of this long, day after day after day, and now you're doing orthopedic, recovery, and that also takes, before we get that really exciting moment of them walking, before we get that exciting moment of the ship sailing out of Athens, there's work, there's patience, there's time.
Yes.
There's wires that have to be changed, there's barnacles that have to be scraped off the ship, there's exercise that has to be done for these kids, and it's all worth it if we can be patient.
It is worth it. Something you said that really touched me, because I never thought about, all the things that have happened just because we got Anastasis going.
You guys resurrected the Anastasis, and not only did that bring hope and healing to patients, which is our primary goal, but also I think of all the crew who met, who fell in love, who got married, who met lifelong friends, children that were born. And I would not have existed without that ship. Like, my life came into being because of that
Look
ship.
at that. Well, the funny thing is that we left the ship in 84. Early 84, I think it was.
Yes, with our 2-year-old daughter.
We had a little daughter with us. And now 40 years later, we are back together.
Wow.
So
I just love that.
40 years, it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a generation, the difference of a generation.
Yeah.
And we are so glad to be back and to be able to serve together again on this well-organized, well-running ship.
Yes.
And this ministry which blesses so many people.